So I just want to give a little preface. There were two of us who were supposed to talk on the same topic. That's why last week I checked with Ashwini whether some extra credit or out of syllabus we can speak about it. So what you're going to see is a little different from, for example, the foundations of the holistic practice, where the multi-pronged approach of Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, that we have already understood. So now let's see some other aspects, some tidbits or some interesting facts about some of the breathing practices that we do, how it benefits the respiratory system. And much of this I learned from one of my teachers, Srivatsa Ramaswamy, who teaches the Vinyasakrama Yoga. So first let's look at the respiratory system. We can actually divide them into upper and lower respiratory tract. So the upper respiratory tract is basically this part from the nostrils to about the throat or the glottis region, and from down that region, namely the trachea and the bronchial tubes and all the way to the lungs. So the airways in that passage is the lower respiratory tract. We are going to see some idiosyncrasies, that is some of the pathological conditions associated with both upper and lower respiratory tracts, and how to manage them with yogic practices. But let's first take a step back and see what role this respiratory tract plays. Because by the time the air from outside gets into the lungs, it has to traverse through a long passageway. And there's a reason for that, because the air that reaches the lungs should qualify these four items that you see here. So the first one is, it should be warm. So even if the outside environment is bitter cold, like many parts of the US were very cold, yet when they breathe, by the time it reaches the lungs, the air should be of the same temperature as the body. And then the second one is, it must be moist, even in low humidity conditions. That's the second aspect. And the third, it should be bereft of pollutants, and it should be, the last one is, it should be free of harmful bacteria and pathogens. So the role that the airways play, the upper and the lower respiratory tract, is to address these four items that you see in this list. So how exactly does the passageways play the role? How do they function so that these four items are met? So let's start with the first one. The air temperature is conditioned by the time it traverses through the long respiratory tract in this piping system, because it has to make contact with the walls of the airways, which are maintained at body temperature. So by the time it reaches the lungs, it is not as severe cold, or perhaps it's too hot outside. So by the time it reaches the lungs, it is close to the body temperature. So that is one. Second, it is moist by the time it reaches the lungs, because the respiratory tract has a membrane lining that produces a layer of mucus. So it goes through this mucus membrane that adds moisture to the air by the time it reaches the lungs. Third one, it is bereft of atmospheric pollutants. And the way the air passageway removes the pollutants is, especially in the upper respiratory tract, you have this vibrissae, which is basically hairs, to trap the dust and other offending substances. Now, in the language of yoga, these vibrissae are called loma. You might have heard Anuloma Viloma Pranayama. This loma refers to the hair. And the way in which the vibrissae are oriented, it is such that it allows, like when the air flows in one direction, the pollutants, because they flow in only one direction, it can get trapped. It's like the one-way trap. It's easy to throw the dust out when we breathe out, because the vibrissae are pointing towards the outer side. You see the point, right? So it's like a one-way trap. These vibrissae offer a one-way trap because of the direction in which they are pointing towards. And the last one, free from harmful bacteria and viruses. The secretions, the mucus secretions, help to trap the pathogens and smaller dust particles. And here's an interesting thing. There is a mechanism which is called the mucociliary escalator as in like a conveyor belt type of escalator, where mechanism that moves the secretions towards the laryngopharynx for either expectoration. This expectoration is the clinical name for snorting basically, and or swallowing. So what happens is that all these pathogens that are trapped by the mucus, they, because of this the escalator mechanism, they approach this junction point between the respiratory tract and the digestive tract, the esophagus. So that's why they share a common point. For example, people might be wondering why, if it's easy to get choked while eating food, why did God design that there is this junction point between them? Here's the reason. The reason is that all these have to be eliminated in some way. So these pathogens can easily be destroyed when they move into the digestive tract. So this is a quick summary of what roles the upper and lower respiratory tract play. Now, as yogis, we practice a lot of breathing exercises. So here's an interesting thing for us to consider. Did you notice that Kapalabhati resembles sneezing, right? Ujjayi resembles wheezing, and Bhastrika resembles coughing. This may not be so clear, but I'm going to convince you in a moment. So let's start with the first one. Kapalabhati. What is Kapalabhati? It's basically forceful exhalation and passive inhalation. Sneezing is the same thing, right? Forcefully we exhale, expel something, maybe an irritant or something that the respiratory system trying to eliminate from the system. So active exhalation. Ujjayi, we make a similar sound as wheezing, right? In wheezing, basically asthma wheezing, where we have the trachea or the bronchi that are clogged or constricted, we try to mimic that with our throat, with the glottis. We are trying to constrict the air passageways, very similar to what happens in wheezing. And we create the same sound, the hissing sound of Ujjayi is very similar to the sound of wheezing. And the last one, Bhastrika, similar to coughing, where in Bhastrika we have active inhalation and active exhalation, both. And we will see in a moment that coughing is very similar to that. So why is this important? What are we trying to get at by making these comparisons or the similarities between these yogic practices and some of the natural mechanisms? We are going to see that in a moment. It's interesting, right? How many of us have thought about this before? Okay, it's very useful. It's not just like oh, did you notice? But there is a reason why this is going to be clear in a few moments. So let's look at the sneeze reflex, and what we are going to learn from this is about the sneeze center. So what happens during sneezing? Sternutation, it is called. The technical term for sneezing is sternutation. So there is a trigger that can be caused by an irritation in the nasal passageways. It could be, for example, a pollutant that the body is trying to get rid of. So that is what triggers the sneezing reflex. And there are afferent nerves. Afferent, recall, is the sensory nerves, and efferent is the motor nerves. So afferent nerves, specifically for the sneezing, the afferent nerve is the CN5, which is a cranial nerve 5, which is also called the trigeminal nerve. So this acts as a sensory nerve that catches the irritating sensations from the nasal passageways, and it is transmitted to a part of the medulla, the lateral part of the medulla, and this is basically the sneeze center. So there's some, you can think of a CPU or a processing mechanism there, sitting and deciding, okay, now we have to send the sneeze signal. So this is the sneeze center. And once that sneezing signal is given, then many things happen, including the glottis is made wide open and the reflex will automatically expel. There's a forceful exhalation that happens. So the point here is there is a sneeze center sitting somewhere in the brain. medulla, the lateral part of the medulla. Now, why is this important? It so happens that once that sneezing is complete, once that mechanism is over, the sneeze center cannot be activated immediately. There is a balance that happens that, in other words, if the irritant is there even after sneezing, then it will not trigger the sneezing mechanism immediately. It will take some time for it to build up. So, if there is a lot of sneezing because of, say, allergies or hay fever and so forth, then by doing Kapalabhati, we are actually calming the sneeze center. You don't need to wait for the body to trigger that sneezing mechanism all the time. You're doing it voluntarily. Okay, why do I need to depend on my medulla? Let me sneeze voluntarily. Let me do Kapalabhati, and then it calms the sneeze center. The way my teacher used to explain it is, you can think of what is called an anti-sneeze center sitting somewhere in the brain. In fact, the research is still on whether is there something, another center called anti-sneeze center, which is trying to control whether to stop or put the brakes on the sneezing mechanism. So you can think of as an anti-sneeze center, and by doing Kapalabhati or by doing this sneezing, involuntary sneezing, we're actually activating the anti-sneeze center. So this is why this similarity between sneezing and Kapalabhati becomes meaningful. It's not just a fun observation, but there is a basis why it is important to as a functioning mechanism. And the same thing holds good, later we are going to see, for the similarity between wheezing and Ujjayi, and coughing and Bhastrika. So let's look at the coughing reflex, the cough reflex and the cough center. So just like the sneeze center, there's a cough center. So the trigger here is an irritation in the trachea or the bronchi, not in the upper respiratory tract, but somewhere in the lower respiratory tract, the trachea and the bronchi. By the way, these three air passages, namely the trachea and the two bronchi, the two branches of the bronchi, in yogic literature they are called the Kurma Nadi. Kurma Nadi. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, he talks about the Kurma Nadi, and you can go look it up. It's a homework if you are interested. So, irritation in the trachea and bronchi. Similar to before, there are afferent nerves that send the sensation of this irritating. In fact, they are so sensitive, the trachea and the bronchi, that even very slight sensations or even very tiny pollutants can trigger this. So, this afferent nerve that transports this signal is actually something well known to us. It's the vagus nerve, CN10, or the cranial nerve 10. The vagus nerve is the afferent nerve that sends the signal to the cough center. Again, it resides in the medulla. The cough center also resides in the medulla. And there is a sequence of things that happen when the cough center decides that, okay, now I'm going to start the cough mechanism. So the first thing that happens is up to 2.5 liters of air is rapidly inspired. We breathe in immediately, 2.5 liters of air, and then the epiglottis closes. The glottis closes, and it entraps the air inside the lungs. Okay, and then the abdominal muscles are made to contract. So all this is happening step by step. The cough mechanism, it sends a series of these steps, and the third step, as you see, abdominal muscles contract forcefully, raising the pressure in the lungs. And then, lastly, the epiglottis and the vocal cords suddenly open wide, and forceful exhalation happens. So you have forceful inhalation and forceful exhalation, which is basically similar to what we do in Bhastrika. So Bhastrika is basically a refined form of coughing. And just like we saw the anti-sneeze center before, we can think of an anti-cough center. Again, we don't know whether such a center really exists, but for the sake of modeling what's going on in the physiology, we can think of an anti-cough center. So when we mimic a cough, basically when we do Bhastrika, we're actually activating the anti-cough center, we will cough less. So just like when we do a lot of Kapalabhati, then we will not sneeze more. because it triggers the anti-sneeze center. And as you can guess, you can extrapolate it to the wheezing and ujjayi as well. So Kapalabhati and the effect on sneeze center. So sneezing, sternutation, is a physiological response to irritation of the respiratory epithelial lining of the nose. So when allergens impinge on this membrane, histamines are produced which triggers the sneeze center in the medulla. Usually, in order to address the problem of hay fever and allergies, they give antihistamines. So here, basically we are trying to use another mechanism in the body, the anti-sneeze center. That's what we do with Kapalabhati. So sneezing is a semi-autonomous convulsive expulsion of air from the lungs. Kapalabhati closely resembles sneezing. Kapalabhati sends signals to the sneeze center and calms down the overactive center because of allergens. Because it triggers the anti-sneeze center. I didn't put the word anti-sneeze center in this presentation because we still don't know whether such a center exists. And it can bring relief from allergies. So Kapalabhati is very effective for addressing hay fever and allergies and so forth. Okay. And if you look at the upper respiratory tract, there are many practices in yoga that will help. We already saw Kapalabhati. Let's look at some of the other practices, Jalaneti and also Sutraneti, where we use a thread or a catheter to cleanse the air passageways in the nostrils and helps reduce congestion and wash down trapped debris. So that is Jalaneti. And then we have Nadishodhana Pranayama. In Nadishodhana Pranayama, what happens is, there are two things that happen in Nadishodhana Pranayama. One is, when we close one nostril, the other nostril we are actually closing halfway. So the air is made to pass through a very narrow passageway. It acts like a nozzle. So when the same amount of air is now funneled through a smaller passageway, it moves faster, right? So any trapped debris will now easily be cleansed out. There will be, it's like a rapid vacuum cleaner. You just clean it, and there is so much velocity of the air that it can easily get thrown away from wherever it's lodged in the upper respiratory tract. So that is one mechanism. Another mechanism in which Nadishodhana Pranayama helps is, which is not there in the slide, but it helps because the left and right nostrils, as you know, is connected to the opposite sides of the brain, the parasympathetic and sympathetic aspect of the nervous system. What happens when we close one nostril and open the other? Imagine two long pipes transporting water from one side or from a source to a destination, right? Now, if you know that one of the two pipes is clogged, okay, how do you know which one is clogged? You would close one at the source and see whether the water still flows through the other. So like that, alternate nostril achieves the same thing. You close one, open the other, and whichever is clogged, because we pour the air in this case in only one network of nadis, it can easily get cleared away. It purifies the nadis. That's why the name Nadishodhana Pranayama. Okay. So these are with the upper respiratory tract. Lower respiratory tract. So here, the bronchial tubes, when they are constricted, that's the cause of bronchial asthma. And this constriction can happen in one of two ways. One is it's physically clogged. Another, which is more common, is the bronchial tubes dilate and contract respectively during inhalation and exhalation. So when we breathe in, hopefully the bronchial tubes will expand to allow more air to fill in. And when we breathe out, it contracts so that it can expel the air. So the rhythm of our breathing, when it matches the rhythm of the contraction and dilation of the bronchial tubes, then there's perfect harmony between the two, right? But in asthma, what happens is this rhythm is disrupted. The mechanism that dilates the bronchial tubes, and that comes from the sympathetic nervous system. This mechanism that dilates does not function in 100% efficiency. So it constricts, but it doesn't dilate. So that's why the breathing in seems inadequate. They feel breathless. So in asthma, they feel breathless. So in order to reinvigorate the sympathetic nervous system, just like in order to reinvigorate in the previous example the anti-sneeze center, we practice the Kapalabhati, right? Here, in order to reinvigorate the sympathetic aspect of the nervous system, we practice Ujjayi breathing. Ujjayi basically mimics the wheezing, where we constrict the air passageways. And there are a couple of mechanisms that happen. So relief from bronchial asthma. So the cause of bronchial asthma is usually attributed to allergens, pollen, dust, etc. produce a reaction in the respiratory center. Dilation and contraction is controlled by the impulses from the sympathetic and parasympathetic. We already saw this. And then this impulse is suppressed by the allergens. Conventional remedies include keeping away from all the dust particles, the pollutants, or if we live in a place where you cannot do anything about it, develop vairagya towards them. Just leave it. Or temporary medications such as antihistamines. Yogic remedies include the Ujjayi breathing, voluntary constriction of air passage at the epiglottis, and also inversion. We will talk briefly about it towards the end. I'm almost done. So, yoga's perspective on bronchial asthma. Yoga views the bronchial, the disruption of the rhythm between dilated and constricted bronchial tubes as a functional disorder. Functional disorder, because even though allergens are the precipitating cause, the root cause is said to be sudden abnormal activity of the bronchomotor of the vagus nucleus of the medulla leading to the spasms. So this is basically just like we saw the sneeze center and the cough center, this is the bronchial dilation and contraction center. That's what this is. And this lies at the root of the vagus nucleus at the medulla again. Now, the lower tone of the sympathetic also contributes to this condition, as the sympathetic nerves control the bronchial dilation. So, Ujjayi stimulates the vagus nerve. Since the bronchial tubes are also controlled by the same vagus nerve, which is in this case an efferent because it's a motor, it leads to the constriction. The vagus nerve produces the constriction of the bronchial tubes. One would gain control over the muscles activating the bronchial tubes. So later on we will see that Ujjayi breath, the epiglottis region where we constrict, the vagus nerve also passes through the epiglottis. So by bringing good health to this vagus nerve, it benefits all parts of the body, all the internal organs where the vagus nerve passes through, which includes the bronchial tubes. The other yogic practices that may be beneficial are inversions. Inversions, especially Shirsasana, the headstand, helps to direct the CSF, which is the cerebrospinal fluid, into the third ventricle in the brain to stimulate the pituitary. This basically activates the sympathetic aspect of the nervous system. The secretions will help produce adrenaline, a hormone which used to be given in olden days for asthmatics, because it helps to boost the sympathetic aspect of the nervous system. So this is the last slide. Just shows the vagus nerve, where all the traverses, and the vagus nerve basically we can control the vagus nerve in a pharyngeal branch, and the larynx also, basically the glottis, epiglottis region. When we breathe in Ujjayi, we are actually activating the vagus nerve. It also controls the bronchial tubes, the constriction of the bronchial tubes, and various other vital organs of the body. So I hope that all of us are convinced that the practice of Kapalbhati and then Ujjayi and Bhastrika are they're providing benefit because it balances out some imbalance in the body. So if too much sneezing means we have to balance it out by increasing the anti-sneezing. So that's the mechanism that these three breathing practices use.
Question for you.
Yeah.
So people who have like seasonal allergy, if we give them the practice of Kapalbhati, so it will help them along the line.
Yeah, I didn't get the question.
So people who have allergies, pollen allergy, other allergies, and they keep sneezing and it
Yeah.
triggers them so often.
Mm.
So if we ask them to do the Kapalbhati on regular basis, that can help them because
Yes.
we are trying to activate their anti-sneezing.
Exactly.
That's exactly what.
But of course, we'll also have to see, for example, the comorbid conditions. If they also have some acidity, acid reflux, and GERD and all that, then we have to be careful. But yes, when you look at hay fever alone, or when they sneeze a lot, then Kapalbhati definitely helps.
Thank you, that was great.
Thank you, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very good.
That's it.
Yes,
Can
I
we-
not being prepared.
Can we use, yeah,
It was very good.
can we use some of the slide content into our
Oh, definitely.
asthma slides as well as the Word document?
Yeah.